Well, it's back live again. So, okay. So, inshallah, the dars tonight is Seerah Nabawiyah, and the approximate time, because when people attend classes, they would love to know when it will be done. I anticipate 30 minutes, 35 minutes, inshallah. I don't like the dars to be too long, because if it's too long, then people will start to get bored and want to go home, because tomorrow is Monday. You know, everyone has work tomorrow. So inshallah, 30 minutes or something like that would be more than enough. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. When we study the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, or the biography, the kids upstairs, Assalamu alaikum, can you hear me? Why don't you come down and join us? Hello?
I don't think they can hear you.
They can't hear us? No?
Yes.
Jazakallah khair. Just be nice with them, okay? We want them to love the masjid and love us. So, the first question that comes to mind is, why do we need to study the seerah, the biography of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? You know, first of all, when we hear the name of the Prophet, we should say what? Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In a hadith, the Prophet says, أتدرون من البخيل? Or he said, البخيل من ذكرت عنده فلم يصلي عليه. The cheap person or the miser person is the person who hears my name, to whom I am mentioned, and he does not send salam and salah on me. Doesn't say sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And plus we get ajr, you know, whenever we say sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we definitely get ajr from Allah. So why do we need to study the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam? I'm going to mention the reasons, and I would love to hear from you as well. If someone wants to interrupt, to add something, or to correct me, then you're more than welcome to do that, inshallah. طيب. First of all, to know the life events of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When you love someone, you would love to know more about him, right? You know, even imagine if someone is interested in, proposing to a woman and marrying a woman, he would like to, know everything about her. So imagine we love the Prophet ﷺ. It's part of our love to him that we know about him, you know. How much do we love the Prophet ﷺ? We love him so much, right? It's an Islamic principle to love our Prophet more than we love our own selves, more than we love our own parents, more than we love our own spouses, more than we love our own kids. In theory, someone might say, how can I translate that from theory to practice? In theory, yeah, we know that we have to love him more than we love ourselves. But in practice, how do I know that I love the Prophet more than I love myself? Some people might say, I can't even understand it. I can't, even imagine it. Yeah, I love the Prophet. He's the Prophet of Allah. I do love him for sure, no doubt. But how I love him, how do I love him more than I love myself? Or how do I love him more than I love my parents or my kids? How do I translate that from theory into practice? I would say it's easy. Whenever your own desires conflict with the commands of the Prophet ﷺ, see which one you follow. If you follow your own desires, then you love yourself more than the Prophet. If you follow the sunnah of the Prophet, then you love him more than you love yourself. Let's say, for example, you're too lazy, you don't want to pray, right? You missed Salat al-Dhuhr, you missed Salat al-Asr, you missed Salat al-Maghrib. Who do you think you love more, the Prophet or yourself and your own desires? Yourself and your own desires. But if you resist, laziness, and you say, no, I have to wake up and I have to go to the masjid or pray at home, now you love the Prophet, and of course when you love the Prophet, you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهِ. This is an ayah in Surah Al Imran. قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهِ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبْكُمْ اللَّهِ. If you truly love Allah, then follow me and Allah will love you, right? So following the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a sign that we love Allah. Okay, now let's say your son says, oh my father, I want you to buy me, let's say something haram, anything haram, beer, or what else, or allow me to go gambling or do anything haram. If you approve that, if you say yes, you can do that, if you give them money to do haram, then you love your kids more than you love the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you say, no, I cannot do that, this is haram, you're a Muslim, you should not do that, then you love the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam more than you love your own kids. And the same applies to everything in our life. If you put your priority, the sunnah of the Prophet, the commands of Allah and the commands of the Prophet, then you apply the love that you have towards the Prophet. Then you love the Prophet more than you love yourself. So studying the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ is part of our love to him. It also gives us knowledge. We get knowledge when we study his life events and understanding. And we know how to run our own life. When we get into troubles, when we get into problems, then we can always, all the time, relate to something happened at the time of the Prophet. If we study the seerah, we can do that. You run into a problem, you say, okay, I remember this hadith, and I remember this event, or I remember this conversation between the Prophet and his companion, so and so. So you can always relate. So it helps you run your own life. Also, studying the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gives you reward. You're doing ta'ah. This is worship. You're sitting in a class, in dars, listening to the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or you're opening a book to read about the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's a problem with the mic. You are in ibadah. You're doing part of the ibadah. You're worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now let's move forward. I think maybe the battery is dead or something. Jazakallah khair. Thank you. Barakallahu feek. Now, moving on from the importance of studying the seerah, does anyone want to add anything to this? Why do we need to study the seerah? Or we should move on? Okay. When we study a book, we have to know who the author is, right? We have to know who the author is, because we have to trust him. This author is giving us a lot of information about the Prophet, about the person we love the most. So we have to trust the author. We have to know who the author is, so that we can give him our trust, so that we can open our ears to him and listen to what he has to say. The author of this book is an Indian scholar. His name is Shekh Saffyu Ur Rahman al-Mubarakfuri. Saffyu Ur Rahman al-Mubarakfuri. I think there is a city or town in India called Mubarakpur. Does anyone know? Because usually such a name would refer to a city or a town. So his name is Saffyu Ur Rahman al-Mubarakfuri, and he was born in 1943, and he died, may Allah have mercy on his soul, he died in 2006. Sheikh Saffyu Ur Rahman, this book has a story, how he published and how he authored this book, has a very interesting story, subhanAllah. One day, he attended a conference by the Muslim World Congress, or Muslim World League, which is called in Arabic, Rabitat al-Alam al-Islami, the Muslim World League, or the Muslim World Congress. And they announced competition. They said, there's a competition. If you submit a research paper or a book on the Prophet, on the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you get the first place, you get a prize. How much was the prize? 50,000 Saudi riyal. I'm not sure how much is that in dollars. $1 is 3.75 Saudi riyal. I'm not. $12,000?
$13,000, yeah.
Mashallah, you're good at math. I'm so bad at math. Inshallah. Okay. So it's about $12,000. But I'm not sure about the currency back then, because the competition was announced in 1976. And the Sheikh, he worked on his book and he submitted it, and subhanAllah, he got the first place. He won the competition. And he said that I did not ever think that this would be a book to be published. And subhanAllah, now it is book number 1 in Seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So imagine sometimes when we do competitions, and inshallah that's something we will definitely do in our masjid, inshallah. Sooner or later we will do this competition so that our kids, can get involved more and can get, excited about participating in the activities. Shekh Saffyu Ur Rahman, he follows Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. He's Sunni. You know, we have when we talk about Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we talk about Aqidah. There are different sects, right? We have Shia, we have Zaydiyya, we have Ithna Ashariya, we have Sufis, we have Ismailiyya. We have different sects in Islam. So Sheikh Saffyu Ur Rahman, he was Sunni, min Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. It's important to know if someone is Sunni or not, because we have to know that the sources that he relies on when he quotes something in his book is authentic or are authentic. You know, he gets his own information from Sahih al-Bukhari, the book of Bukhari, the book of Muslim, and the other books of Ahadith and Seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now this book, I skipped, how many pages? I skipped like a chapter that talks about the Arabs before the Prophet ﷺ was born. He was talking about the tribes in the Arabian Peninsula, how they lived. He was talking about their society. And I just decided to just get started with the first chapter that talks about the birth of the Prophet ﷺ. This is more relevant to us than to others. So he says the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the master of prophets, was born in the Bani Hashim section of Mecca. So Mecca, what was the main tribe that lived in Mecca? Quraysh, right? And Quraysh had different sections or sub-tribes. So the sub-tribe that the Prophet ﷺ was born to is called Hashim. So he's from Hashim min Quraysh. And which day of the week the Prophet ﷺ was born on? He was born on Monday, right? How do we know that? He told us that. He told us that he was born on a Monday. What was the date? Now, when it comes to the date of the Prophet's birth, do we have only one confirmed date? No, we don't. We don't. Some sources say he was born in Rabi al-Awwal on the 8th. Some sources say on the 2nd of the month. Okay, Rabi al-Awwal is what month on the Hijri calendar? What is the first month on the Hijri calendar? Muharram, and then Safar, and then Rabi al-Awwal, and then Rabi al-Thani. So it was the third month on the Hijri calendar. So some say on the 2nd, on the 8th, on the 9th, on the 10th, on the 11th, on the 12th, up to the 18th. Some say in other months. But we would say the most of the closest date to be, the accurate one is the 12th of Rabi al-Awwal. He was born on Monday, 12th of Rabi al-Awwal. Okay, if we convert that to the Gregorian calendar, do you know which year is that going to be? 571. 571. So this tells us the time between Prophet Isa alayhi salam and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is 571 years. And by the way, how many years between Prophet Musa and Prophet Isa? Approximately 1500 years, 1500 years between Prophet Musa and Prophet Isa, and 571 years between Prophet Isa alayhi salam and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And again, we said this is not accurate because usually when the ulama speak of why we don't have a confirmed date for the Prophet's birth is because when someone gets born, in the past, they don't know about his future. They don't know if he's going to be an important person in history or not. So they don't pay much attention, to that. But when that person dies, now we know he's a big person, even if not a prophet, even Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, Abu Hanifa, and such scholars in the Muslim history, we know for sure when they died, but we don't know for sure when they were born, right? For the same reason, people don't know when they're born that they will be something in the future. طيب. Ibn Sa'd reported, Ibn Sa'd is one of the Muslim scholars that had Seerah of the Prophet, a book on the Seerah of the Prophet. He said, the Prophet's mother. So what is the Prophet's mother name? What's her name?
Bibi Amina.
Amina? طيب, نعم. What is the Prophet's wet nurse? Al-Murdi'at? Halima. Now, Jazakallah khair. So Amina, the Prophet's mother, she said, when she refers to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was born, there was a light that issued out of me. She saw in her dream, right? She had a vision that there was light coming out of her that lit the palaces of Syria up. You imagine, Syria is how far away from Mecca? Maybe approximately, I'm not sure, but 500 miles maybe? 700 miles away. So in her dreams, she saw light coming out from her, and she was pregnant. At that time, she was pregnant. And how many kids did she have? Just one, just the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And soon, down the page, we will be talking about the Prophet's brothers and sisters. Someone might say, how come you just said he was the only child? But I will explain. How come he's the only child, and how come he has brothers and sisters? We'll be talking about that soon, inshallah, today. So she saw in her dream that light coming out from her when she was pregnant. And then it's narrated that, but this narration is not authentic, but it is there in the Seerah, that 14 balconies of Kisra's palace collapsed. So two important empires at that time, there were the empire of Kisra and the empire of Qaisar, right? Qaisar was the king of what? The emperor of what? The Rome, right? And Kisra, Persia, right? So it's been narrated that 14 balconies of Kisra's palace collapsed on the day of the Prophet's birth, but again, this narration is not authentic, although we hear it a lot. When the Prophet ﷺ was born, his mother, again we said his mother was Amina, not Amina, Amina. And by the way, since we're speaking about the mother of the Prophet ﷺ, will she enter Jannah or Hellfire? Do you know? We talked about that in the halaqah after Fajr, but since some of you were not there, so we can summarize what we said. What do you think? The Prophet's parents, father and mother, will they be in Jannah or in Hellfire? There's some disagreement between the scholars. Some say they will be in Hellfire, some say they will be in Jannah. Allahu A'lam. Allahu A'lam. The hadith that they refer to is a man came to the Prophet ﷺ, and that man had a father who denied the message of the Prophet or something, and he asked the Prophet, where is my father going to be in? Is it in Jannah or Hellfire? He said in Hellfire, because he was kafir. So the man got really sad and upset, and he was about to leave. So the Prophet invited him back, and he said, don't be sad, your father and my father both are in Hellfire. So some ulama, scholars say, well, this hadith is enough evidence that the Prophet's parents will be in Hellfire. Another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, استأذنت ربي أن أزور قبر أمي فأذن لي. I asked Allah for permission to visit my mother's grave, so He gave me the permission. واستأذنته أن أستغفر لها, and I asked Allah to make istighfar, to make dua for my mother, فلم يأذن لي, and He didn't give me the permission. So the ulama say, well, that's another hadith, that's another daleel, evidence that the parents of the Prophet will be in Hellfire. However, other ulama say, well, no. First of all, the word ab in Arabic could mean uncle, right? Could mean uncle. The word ab for father in Arabic has two words. Could be translated as father. Father could be translated as walid in Arabic, or ab. So if you say walid, that's the biological father. If you say ab, that could be your biological father, could be your uncle, right? So they said no. He referred to, when he said, my father is in Hellfire, he didn't mean his biological father, he just meant his uncle. And also, when he asked Allah to give him permission to make dua, to make istighfar for his mother, it's not enough dalil to say that she will end up in Hellfire, right? she's from Ahl al-Fatra. What is Ahl al-Fatra? You know, the people that died before the Prophet received the message from Allah. How old was the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Prophet Muhammad, when his mother passed away? He was only 6 years old, right? How old was he when he received the message from Allah? 40, right? So that means the mother of the Prophet, passed away, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, before he received the message. So that makes her from Ahl al-Fatra. What is Ahl al-Fatra? Ahl al-Fatra is the people of the duration. The duration between Isa and Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Those people that did not receive a message. Because Prophet Isa was sent to Bani Israel. Prophet Muhammad was sent to the mankind, to everyone, right? So that those people did not have a messenger from Allah. So on the Day of Judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not cause them to enter hellfire before He separates them. So on the Day of Judgment, some ulama say Allah will separate those people and they will not know that they are on the Day of Judgment. And Allah will send them a messenger. That will happen on the Day of Judgment. And this messenger will invite them to Allah, to Tawheed. If they accept the message, then they will enter Jannah. If they deny the message, then they will enter hellfire. So they say, so again, some ulama say they are kafir, they will go to hellfire, the parents of the Prophet. Some say they will go to Jannah. Some say they are from Ahlul Fatra, the people of the duration. They will receive a messenger on the Day of Judgment. And then Allah will decide. How much time left? Yeah? 10 more minutes or what? I don't want to just go forever. 16? What time did we start then, Omar?
So might as well.
I don't want you to lose interest, so that I don't want to make it too long, inshallah. Maybe just 10 more minutes and we'll stop, bi'idhnillah. طيب. Now, he moves on and he says that his mother immediately sent someone to inform his what? Who was the person that cared the most about the birth of the Prophet at that time? Now his father passed away even before the Prophet was born. But there was a man that, and actually that man is the man who named him, who gave him the name Muhammad. Now, it was his grandfather. What's the name of his grandfather? Abdul Muttalib. Abdul Muttalib. Not Abu Talib, because Abu Talib is his uncle. His name is Abdul Muttalib. And Abdul Muttalib, he was so happy, and he named him Muhammad. And because that name was not common at that time. It was not common at all. Some say he was the first person to be named Muhammad. Some scholars say no, there were other Muhammads, but there were very, very few. Only two or three in the history before Islam that were named Muhammad, and they were not even known to Quraysh. So how did Abdul Muttalib come up with the name Muhammad? He had a dream. Someone came to him in the dream, and he said, Amina will deliver a boy. Name this boy Muhammad. That's the dream he had, and that's why when he received the happy news of the birth of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he just named him Muhammad, and he was so happy and so thankful to Allah. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that year was the year of what? Amul Fil. What is Fil? The elephant. And we recite Surah Al-Fil, right? Alam tara, ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل وأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل فجعلهم كعصف مأكول. The Abrahah, he was in Yemen, he was a king in Yemen, and he was jealous that people go to perform pilgrimage in Mecca, and he said, why don't people come to Yemen? Especially the people of Quraysh used to go to Yemen. Rihlat al-Shita'i was they had a trip to Yemen and a trip to Syria, Sham. So he built this great palace, but then no one came to it. And then he decided to invade Kaaba. He took this big army with an elephant, and some ulama say the name of the elephant was Mahmud. Allahu alam if it's true, authentic. narration or not, but he took this elephant and they went to the Kaaba to destroy it. And then what happened to the field, to the elephant? He refused to march forward. The field, subhanAllah. They did everything possible with that elephant to push it forward towards the Kaaba, to destroy the Kaaba, but the field refused to do that. And then at that moment, Abdul Muttalib, the grandfather of the Prophet ﷺ, he was a leader in Mecca. He asked the people of Mecca to go up to the mountains. And he wanted to meet who? He wanted to meet Abrahah. Abrahah was happy, now someone is negotiating with me. When he came and he said, can you please free my camels? Can you let my camels go? Because Abrahah took his camels. And he said, now you're the leader of Mecca, and you want to meet me. I am the king. And you want to meet me to talk about your camels? I thought you were going to talk about negotiating, the issue of destroying the Kaaba, demolishing the Kaaba. He said, I am the Lord of the camels, but the Kaaba has a Lord that will protect it. And he went away. And subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the birds, and all of us know the rest of the story. So that was the very year in which the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam born Am al-Fil. So he was born in Am al-Fil. And also he circumcised him. It was a habit in the past called in Arabic نسميه الطهارة صح؟ الطهارة, that is done to the boys, not specifically to the boys. So he circumcised him, and some narration said no, he was born already circumcised. Allahu A'lam, but that's the narrations we have. And now the first woman that breastfed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam after his mother was who? She was not Halima. No, it was another woman, and she was actually a freed slave of Abu Lahab, and her name was Thuwayba. So Thuwayba was the first wet nurse that breastfed the Prophet ﷺ. She also breastfed Hamza, the uncle of the Prophet. So the uncle of the Prophet is also his brother, his foster brother, or his brother, we say in Rada'ah. And we will conclude with that, inshallah. It was a general custom of the Arabs living in towns to send their children away to Bedouin. Why? Because Mecca was the hub of the peninsula, and people used to go for Hajj. And the people of Mecca, the people of Quraysh, they did not want their kids to be exposed to different dialects and different accents. They want their kids to have pure Qurayshi Arabic, the Qurayshi accent, the Qurayshi variety of Arabic. So they say if our kids spend their early years of their childhood in Mecca, and they get exposed to the people coming, that can spoil their language. So they send them to some tribes in the desert, to some Bedouins. So the Prophet ﷺ was sent to the desert, and who took him? Halima al-Sa'diyya radiyallahu anha. Halima al-Sa'diyya, she was married to a man called what? Al-Harith. Al-Harith. And this man, Al-Harith, did he have kids? Yes. So Halima and her husband, they had kids. They had Abdullah ibn al-Harith. Now we're talking about the Prophet's brothers and sisters, or we can say foster brothers and sisters. So they had Abdullah and Anisa. So Abdullah, Anisa, and Ash-Shayma. Maybe some of us heard this name, Ash-Shayma. So these were the Prophet's foster brothers and sisters, in addition to Hamza radiyallahu anhu wa arda. And in other narrations they say more than that. That's why Shekh Saffyu Ur Rahman, the author of the book, did not specify a number. He didn't mention a number because we don't know for sure the number of the foster brothers and sisters to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We just know those that I mentioned. طيب, inshallah, next time we will continue talking about the childhood of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let's see if anyone has any question.
It was just a comment for like when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive his mother, or just like to allow him to like pray for her. Like I have just like different like thoughts for
Sure.
people who are saying she will be in the hellfire or something like that. That Allah didn't grant him, although he's like the most favorable person, or didn't grant him this like specific like request to just like get him away from like the people will say, oh, he was like so specific for his mom or his dad. So it is just like for Allah to decide. It is not for the Prophet. That might be a different angle for why Allah didn't grant him,
that.
like,
Yeah. So it doesn't mean that she will be in hellfire. It just means,
that's what I'm saying. Yes.
It's up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yes.
No, Jazakallah khair. And that's what me personally, that's what I believe too. It's up to Allah. Yeah, I cannot say that they will be in hellfire.
Yes.
Allahu
And
A'lam.
there is no conclusion if they are saying he didn't like allow him to pray for her or like excuse her or something. That's an evidence that she will be in hellfire.
Exactly. That's right. No, mashallah.
They didn't even got the message.
She didn't get the message. No.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
What Sheikh Muhammad was saying. This Ahl al-Fatra, where there was no any messenger at that time.
نعم أحسن الله إليكم. طيب, جزاكم الله خير وبارك الله فيكم, وإن شاء الله we'll continue our program next weekend إن شاء الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.